with Arsenal being fully in the crunch games of the season, every single player needs to perform every single week. And undoubtedly, probably the most important player for the team right now is Martin Ødegaard, who is a genuine, outstanding footballer at any part of the pitch in all phases. But let's look at why his new role is his best role for the club and actually gets the best out of him as well. Now, at the start of the season, there was definitely concerns over Martin Ødegaard's performances. While I don't think it's necessarily his fault, Arsenal were trying to work with Havertz in midfield and work through progression that way and trying different setups up, like Partey playing in right back and obviously Timber playing at the start before his injury. And he played a lot like he did last year, usually working off the right side with Saka and playing in a more advanced role, looking for the other midfielders to win the ball back and give them the ball high up the pitch. Now, the progression to him was not very good, and a lot of players were often overmanning Saka and Ødegaard on the right side. While sometimes it would work with Saka still scoring an exceptional goal by cutting in, Ødegaard would not get the same freedom and would find it hard to actually make good passes and create any sort of chances in the game. This led to him in the end of September only creating around a 0.06 chances per game and only created 8 chances in the first 7 games of the Premier League season. This was especially bad in games such as the North London derby, where he only made 19 passes out of 28 in the game and only had an expected goals and expected assists of 0.07. He was not getting on the ball at all and not really creating anything. And there was more problems that are also being caused because he didn't get the ball very often. He ended up shooting too much and was ended up having shots around 2 to 3 per game, and in some games even have as high as 5. But these weren't necessarily close or really affecting the game. He was having a lower XG at 0.2, and often it was just wasting a lot of good chances for Arsenal. Now, while this is not necessarily all down to him because the Kai Havertz isn't a true centre mid, Ødegaard was having to play extremely high on the pitch. And with us playing basically 2 strikers, they were mostly out of the play waiting for it, so it left a lot of players that could go and press Ødegaard. Now, the best way that we solved this issue was having Ødegaard come deeper. It's a thing that has definitely been prominent in Arsenal's success for this 2024 and has involved Ødegaard being more on the ball and better with the play. Now, in order to do this, we needed some invertation to happen on Ødegaard's side. So Ødegaard was still playing in that right centre mid spot, basically more of an attacking midfielder, but it's a free midfield, so they're all a bit fluid in where they play. Now, this solution came through another string of problems that actually occurred. I think originally we were going to have Zinchenko obviously invert on that left side, but with his constant injury problems and it not really working defensively with his 1v1 situations, Arsenal really needed a change, and they ended up playing Kivior in left back, and they figured out he couldn't invert because of the poor performances before. This meant they had to use Ben White. They decided to use Ben White most predominantly in the West Ham game to start, but he was used a little bit before that, and he needed to invert with the ball, making Ødegaard be able to join the attacking line. However, they wanted this to be a fluid transition, and Ben White is not obviously natural at doing it, so he needed Ødegaard's directions to tell him when to actually do it, and it's based on Ødegaard's movement. Ødegaard started coming deep to pick up the ball even from goal kicks short. He knew that teams weren't going to press Arsenal that high and were going to allow their defence to have it, so giving Ødegaard the ball deeper can give them a lot more progression and can allow the other midfielders to weave up. And in these games, we still used Havertz in a centre mid role, but he did kind of play as a double striker. We played him with Trossard, and Trossard was more of the guy that came into midfield and was a bit of a secondary striker. Ødegaard in this game kept picking up the ball and finding great through balls through most of the midfield of West Ham. This was finding people like Rice in progressive areas and people like Trossard when they came deeper. And when Ben White inverted and Arsenal had sustainable possession on the ball and could honestly attack, Ødegaard joined the front line, creating either a 5 or a 6 going forward. This allowed them to have a lot of men over in situations where they needed it to, and Ødegaard didn't have a lot of people on him at all times. He was able to allow Ben White to occupy the position that Ødegaard would have been out just outside the box, so Ødegaard could move into different positions to try and get better balls and better creativity happening. And in this game, that definitely happened. He created 7 chances and got 2 assists, being in his predominant position, but with the overlap and the amount of players with Ben White being there as well, it gave him a lot more options, and he made 109 passes in this game, so much more than he did at the start of the season. And as you can see, his passing stats are completely improved because of this. Not only is he actually making more passes, and you want one of your best passers doing as much as possible getting on the ball, he's also getting more expected assists and creating a lot more for the team, and that has seen him create one of the most chances in Europe between the top 5 leagues in 2024. But he is very fluid and can also do a lot of different tactical systems in the game. Now, we know he's a very smart player, and he always has been, being able to change systems when he wants and listen to Arteta and be a mini Arteta on the pitch. And this is explained also by his brilliant performances when Havertz has been moved up front. Havertz is a brilliant presser and is a brilliant brilliant player at finding space and creating areas where people can create chances. Now, Ødegaard and Havertz work naturally very well together, and when they're up front and Ødegaard's in midfield, they're the main pressers for the team. Ødegaard is very aggressive at running. He often demands a lot from the rest of the players to get to the defenders quickly, and is very smart, usually making the other team go into an area that they want them to. This is pretty much the way that Arsenal want to play. Not only does it allow them to push teams into positions where they can win the ball back easily, it actually allows them to control the tempo, making other teams be quicker with the ball in defence or slower when Ødegaard presses really highly. This shows without the ball, Ødegaard's probably one of the most important players. He dictates the tempo and is important at all stages of the pitch, because with the ball he is also one of the most important players, dictating tempo and being quick or not quick with it. And now with this deeper role, he's obviously not having as many shots per game. He is down on that, and he's also creating a little bit more chances than he was last season. But to make Havertz and the team work, I think, better, it actually makes a lot more sense for him to come deeper. And despite that, he is still creating enough. He just needs to get onto the ball consistently, and when he doesn't, Arsenal do really struggle at building tempo in the game and actually having sustainable chances. Ødegaard is a very calm player on the ball, and even in situations where there are a lot of players around him, he's very good at keeping the ball under pressure. He's an amazing passer and a brilliant dribbler as well, and we have seen so many spectacular assists from him this season, but he's not going to get as many as he is last year through this deeper role. And in order to try and help him, you have seen Jorginho play as a double pivot with Declan Rice a lot. We still get the invitation from Ben White sometimes, and Ødegaard still comes deeper as well. Ødegaard often will come deeper, rarely, but he will pass it off and pass it up the pitch and then make a running movement forward. This allows the ball to go to Jorginho and create some space for him so he can do his brilliant passing, and Declan Rice pushes a bit more forward, helping Ødegaard trying to get him to the ball more often. However, the creating from deep can also help Arsenal in different ways. Against Bayern Munich, there was a specific moment where Bayern Munich went on a brilliant break with Leroy Sané basically being one-on-one. Now, Ben White and a lot of other players came back, but Ødegaard was the deepest player before the transition happened. He was ready for that to potentially go bad, and he did really well to run back and get the ball. Not only is his work rate excellent, and you want him anywhere on the pitch because you know he's going to try his hardest, and also is very good at running. He's a really good leader and is a really great example for the rest of the team. It has to be playing for Arsenal consistently because he's the best player on the pitch, that making the tactical changes while also putting the most effort in all the time, while also playing a lot. And Arsenal are much more consistent side than they were last year and have the opportunity to actually beat big teams. They're not necessarily relying on fast play every single game. This means Martin Ødegaard is going to have less goal contributions. Last year he got 15 goals and 8 assists, and this season so far he's only got 7 goals and 6 assists, which is still very respectable, but this is expected to happen and hopefully other players in the team will get more. But considering Arsenal are a much better team now, I believe, and I think Martin Ødegaard's a massive reason why he's so vital in every single phase of play for Arsenal, building the ball up from the back, pressing from the front, and also being a very good defensive player as well. Let me know what you think about Martin Ødegaard and why he is so good, and let me know if there's any other players that you think are very vital to Arsenal's success this season. If you like this video, please go and watch my video the other day. If not, I'll see you in the next one.